Everybody, got a big crowd here today. Going to have a great meeting. It's Bama week if you're an Arkansas Razorback fan. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's only been 9 years. Maybe this could be the year. Maybe this could be the year. Are we not blessed to be here? We could be in a lot of other places, a lot of other maybe more unpleasant places, but we're here and we're blessed to be here and we're very thankful. So with that said, Gary, will you come up and bless this meeting and the food that we have already eaten today?
There you go. Somebody told me in the elevator they were talking about praying for the game. We've already started praying for the game, right? All of us have. I got to tell you, my highlight for the weekend was my 7-year-old grandson, 2 pick sixes, flag football. It was awesome. I got video if you want to see it. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the beautiful day, the opportunity to gather together, just enjoy each other's fellowship and something we share in common that we love so much. Lord, use us today in your service and keep us strong to be able to serve you and others. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Gary. Matt, you got that. You just took care of that hum. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. It is hard to believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is week number 7 of the Touchdown Club. Good Lord, have mercy. Brett Bielema, Herm Edwards, Danny Werfel, Jeff Long, Gary Pinkel. How many enjoyed the Boz last week? How about that? Holy cow. I did notice one Oklahoma Sooner that wasn't there that's here today for some reason. Oh, hey, Keith Jackson. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Not saying anything else besides that. So excited to have Casey Dick and Tyler Wilson here, 2 great quarterbacks for the Hogs, 2 great young guys representing the University of Superway. Can't wait to hear them talk. Next week, we've got the future Hall of Famer, Frank Beamer. I think he ended up with 230-something wins. Rex, one of the all-time winningest coaches in the history of college football. He's going to join the Broyles Award Selection Committee, and it's not easy to get him. So I hope we can have a big turnout. And you're talking about one of the great coaches of all time that put Virginia Tech on the map. Remind everybody, too, we've got Blake Anderson after that, then the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. And that's sort of a unique meeting as it is, so we'll have, Debbie's already told me, we have a place on the website to buy tickets just for that. So we want to make sure, and that's just not football. I know Lee Mayberry's been honored, Frank O'Mara, and there's Bev Lewis amongst Kevin McReynolds and other folks. So we want to make sure and have a great turnout for that. It is Bama week. And I thought my buddy Roger Scott was going to be here. I'm very disappointed. He had to go. He had a little emergency that came up. But I thought it would be fun. You know, back in the 60s, before you guys were born, Tyler and Casey, they used to, even before I was born, to be quite honest with you, around the same time, they used to make up songs, and they would sell albums with the Razorback songs. So every week on The Buzz, on our morning show, Roger Scott does a song for the week. And it's sponsored by Dr. Jimmy Tucker, and Tommy and I always enjoy it. So I thought it's because it was Bama week, this is a little, it's a parody song based on a Johnny Cash song that you'll represent. Matt, if we'll just play about 30, 40 seconds of Roger's song, let's hear this. It's like the good old days. Take you back to the early 1960s.
I hear that Bama's coming up to Fayetteville. Whether it's rain or sunshine, the Hogs, we never yield. They're headed for a collision. It's gonna be pell-mell.
Pell-mell, you know what that means? I'll tell you in a second.
Then we will send the tide a-rolling right back down the pig trail. Since I was just a baby, I've been my daddy's son. He raised me up a Razorback, and now his work is done. 'Cause every time the Hogs lose, I just wanna die.
Come on, Roger.
But when I hear that whoop pig suey, I just swell up with pride.
How about Roger Scott, everybody? How about that? And he used the word pell-mell. Does anybody know what pell-mell means? Chaotic, very good. You know where he got that word from? And Big Red is #1, written back in the early 1960s. Pell-mell, because you couldn't say hell back in the day. So that's what he used. I thought that was very creative. So good job, Roger Scott. We have those every week on the Buzz. So thank you very much. Want to encourage you, if you hadn't joined up, please go ahead and join. We've got the combination of our sponsors and our memberships to help us pay to get our fine speakers in every week. And we need you. We want to say thank you, all you 50-yard line members paying extra above the cost that we normally pay to get a membership. We thank you. We want to encourage you to join. If you haven't already, add the National Football Foundation to your membership, where you can vote on the College Football Hall of Fame. Keith, what year did you go in the College Football Hall of Fame? 2001. So you have a chance to vote on Arkansans, even though they may be from Oklahoma, they may be in Division II, whatever. So we encourage you to do that. Also, you can join the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame through our membership. So we want you to do that. 1999 you were confused? You went to the Ark? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Keith. We're going to introduce Keith. Yes. 1999 for the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, one of the great tight ends of all time. I will tell you this, that Brian Bosworth, Danny Werfel, and all of them come in here and say the same thing. If it weren't for the energy and enthusiasm that you guys have makes a difference, and the way you welcome our guests. They say, hey, it's the best, one of the best in the country. So I just want to let you know how important that is, that you come in here every week and laugh and support, shake hands, take your pictures, and all that kind of stuff. It means a lot. It makes a difference, the reputation of our club. So please join if you haven't already. We've got the phone copy to the right. Tommy Smith, he's over there ready to throw something at you. If you don't mute your phone right now. But while you're doing that, you can tell everybody you can go to lrtouchdown.com and watch this live. Right now, being streamed live, or you can listen to it on 103.7 The Buzz when the guys start speaking. We had more requests for Boz's speech. Say, where can you find the Boz? Well, Matt, who does our AV stuff, he archives immediately. So the minute the program is over, you'll be able to hear Tyler and Casey's comments immediately. So that's a really cool thing that not many probably touchdown clubs in America do, but we do that. So if you wanted to catch Brian's deal, you can certainly do that. I do want to recognize a couple folks here. Since we've got two great quarterbacks, outstanding Razorback quarterbacks, it's hard to beat a Razorback quarterback that won a national championship. Let's welcome Freddie Marshall. Where is he at? Freddie, stand up. Where's Freddie? There he is. Freddie talks to Tyler and Casey. He says, you guys have all the numbers. You guys have all the girls, but let me show you my ring right here. That's what he says. And I didn't want to, there you go, he's got it on. Now listen, I wasn't joking. I did want to, a guy that we've had a member for a long, long time. He's a basketball guy, but I don't hardly ever introduce him. He played on the 58 Southwest Conference Championship team for the Razorbacks. Carroll Dunn in basketball. Carroll, stand up, let us away. He's like Santa Claus for the touchdown club. I do want to also recognize some special guests today. She was at the first Touchdown Club meeting we ever had in 2004. We had 48 attendees, and she made name badges for every one of them. My mother, Carolyn, from Panama City, Florida. Stand up, Carolyn. There you go. All the way from Tallahassee, my Aunt Ann. Ann, wave for everybody. Please give her a round of applause. And the youngest of our family, she is 92 going on 25, Aunt Dot. Aunt Dot, wave at everybody. How about that? Look at her. She about to come here and grab the mic from me. She hunted until she was 88. And she's a big Florida State fan, but love her and appreciate y'all being here. And we're trying to talk my mother maybe into moving up here, and we'll take Aunt Ann and Aunt Dot with you if you want to. How about that? And don't you love that southern drawl? That southern drawl. I did want to apologize too. That I, over the weekend, my mother had to fill in for me that after playing in the Paul Lills tournament, I overslept and missed a couple events. I was supposed to meet Coach Bielema and the young man who was battling cancer at age 6, cute kid Keegan Provost, and I also fell asleep and slept through the entire Channel 7 sports special this weekend. So Sully had to call my mother to sit in my place, so I want to apologize for that, but thank you, Mom, for doing such a good job. They didn't tell I was gone, to be honest with you, once you stepped in there. Hey, I did want to recognize something real quick. One of our famous members here, as you guys know, is Kanan Sandy. He is in the ESPN Fan Hall of Fame. He's a member of the Best Buddies, which is a 501c3. It's dedicated to leadership, development, friendship, and jobs for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And you guys remember this particular play that Coach Bielema lined out for him. This was during the spring when he ran it for a touchdown. There you go. A round of applause. That's exactly right. Here we go. Now, this Best Buddies organization, what they want to do, they're trying to raise $2,000. So if you'll Google Best Buddies, you'll find it. Go make a donation. The deadline is Thursday. They want to hit over $2,000, and Cannon is going to present that to Coach Bielema. And so, Cannon, stand up. Let's give you a round of applause for all the great work you do in the community. Do want to thank our wonderful sponsors here today, Twin City Limo, Dale Bennett, Greg Hatcher, Popeye, who's here today, CJRW. I do want to make mention that Darren Gray, who's the CEO of CJRW, got Mike Mills, who owns the Buffalo Outdoor Center in Ponca, and his son-in-law, Austin Albers, to fly to go get Casey Dick. We couldn't have gotten Casey if Darren had not gotten Mike and Austin. So Darren, Austin, and Mike, please stand, and let's give them a round of applause for helping out today with the meeting. If you've never been to Ponca, what can you find in Ponca that you can't find at hardly any other place in Arkansas? Elk. That's exactly right. Very good. So thank you for CJRW, and Darren, thank you for your assistance there. Do you want to thank the LRCVP, Reginald Hall, David Russell. We're proud to be the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Thanks so much. 103.7 The Buzz, Justin Akery, Steve Johnson. As I mentioned, Tommy Smith, Roger, so supportive of what we do here at the Touchdown Club. War Memorial Stadium. I thought War Memorial, I know it wasn't a gigantic crowd, but I thought it was a good crowd. Kevin, congratulations. I know Kevin worked very hard to get as many people there, and let's give a round of applause for all their hard work to do that. I know they worked very hard, Kevin. Thank you. Do you want to thank Epic Health? It is a National Prostate Awareness Month, so guys, go get checked. Go get checked. Go get checked. Ladies, if you have a guy, tell him go get checked. And that's why you see all the pink in the NFL games. It's National Prostate Awareness Month. Thank you, Epic Health, for sponsoring the Touchdown Club and sponsoring the Buzz broadcast. Guys, go get that $1,600 free checkup with them. Farm Bureau, Pulaski County, Shauna Harper, Stephen Reichard, Todd Dennis, thank you so much for sponsoring us. Please, if you've got a need with insurance, go and give them a chance to quote you. They're good people. We're proud to have them as sponsors for the second year in a row. Thank you so much, Farm Bureau, Pulaski County. Wendy's, Nan Trammell, thank you, Wendy's, for sponsoring the Dan Hampton and Willie Rofe Award. We thank you so much. We're keeping our fingers crossed that Dan can get in for the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame, Rex. Have you ever looked at Dan Hampton's hands? I mean, his fingers going about 5 different directions. If he said it's the craziest thing. But we do thank Wendy's. We wouldn't have the Dan Hampton and Willie Rofe Award if not for Wendy's. So go by and make sure and give them some of your business. Do want to thank Wright Lindsay and Jennings for their sponsorship. Remember, they do so many different things at Wright Lindsay and Jennings. They're also great tax attorneys, and I think Donald Trump may could have used them if you follow politics, or maybe he did. I don't know, but. They family and assets, they're protected. Wright Lindsay and Jennings will take care of that for you. Business and individual tax planning, estates, trust. They have the tax attorney team that'll take care of you. As you guys know, they're not my particular personal attorney. Judy, thank you so much for your support of the Cliff Harris Award, support of the Touchdown Club. Thank you very much. Also want to thank Crane Automotive, Larry Crane, Drew Dees, all the folks at Crane. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the Touchdown Club. Go by and make sure they give you a good deal. They will, I know. The Democrat Gazette, Amanda Copley. We got Amanda and Wally here today. So great to have Amanda here and Wally. We'll have the All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week here in just a minute. I couldn't do it without Simmons Bank. So funny, Tyler has already knew Adam and Chris already, so I don't know if we've got some loan action going on here already. I don't know. But I introduced Casey to them too. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the Touchdown Club. George Macra sent me a message, who is the president, and said he's sorry he hadn't been able to be here, and he misses it, but he's so glad to hear how good the year is going. So we certainly appreciate you guys. Let's give a round of applause to all of our wonderful sponsors. We want to thank the fine folks here at the Embassy Suites. Thank you so much for the great job they do here. Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson, I was going to tell you, Matt has on, I mentioned the Paul Lills tournament last week. Matt, the day that I guess it was within a month of Paul's death, they gave out wristbands. And that was 10 years ago, and he's never taken that Paul Lills wristband off. So stand up, let's give him a round of applause for remembering Paul Lills. How about that? He's with Fidelity Local 6, and thank you for all your work with us, Matt. Dwayne Duncan, photography, where are you at, Dwayne? Thank you so much for taking all the pictures that you do. Couldn't do it without you. RJ Hawk could not be here to do social media, so from Daybreak, where is he at? He's doing social media. Where is he at? Where's Chris? Is he here? Is he here? There he is. Chris Kane from Daybreak doing social media for the Touchdown Club today. Let's give him a round of applause. How about that? At LR Touchdown Club is the Twitter account. Thank you, Chris, for doing that. Appreciate it so much since RJ couldn't be here today. Our amazing check-in ladies that do such. You know, Melissa's always the first one here, Rex. Your wife. Couldn't do it without all of you guys and one of you wonderful ladies. Let's give them a round of applause if you don't mind. Debbie Wyman, who does such a great job. And Debbie wants to remind everybody, again, when you RSVP, guys, and you don't show up, somebody's got to pay for your meal. So thank you for those of you who show up with your RSVP, because somebody's got to pay for it if you don't. But let's get it up for Debbie Wyman. Such a great job. And we've had the governor here, we've had the attorney general, and today we have the lieutenant governor, Tim Griffin. Let's welcome Tim Griffin right here in the front. It's time for our All Arkansas Preps Player of the Week. He is a senior at Joe T. Robinson this past week. He caught 2 weeks ago, 5 passes for 176 yards, 3 TDs in a 47-18 victory over Fountain Lake. This week, I think he had 8 receptions for 160 yards. He catches a touchdown pass. He throws a touchdown pass. He's got some pretty good genes. Please welcome Colin Jackson, everybody. Corlin is the son of Keith and Melanie Jackson. Keith and Melanie, great to have you here. And I guess you may have heard he's committed to be a Razorback. That's another very good thing. Corlin, you always get a big cheer if you say, I'm committed to the Razorbacks here. Do you want to thank Coach Escola for being here, Todd Escola, and Coach Mopin as well here, doing great things over at Robinson. You know, last year we awarded Tonda Bullock our James Street Award, a young man whose mother was murdered, didn't have a father in his life. One of your assistant coaches stepped in, and he's playing at OBU right now. And just so you're doing great things over at Robinson. We appreciate you being here. And Keith Jackson, you and Melanie, what you're doing at Park, saving lives of young people by pointing them in the right direction. I could care less about what you did on the field. It's what you're doing since it really makes you a great person. So we're glad to have you here today. All right, what a weekend in football. I'm still mad at Georgia. We'd have ESPN Game Day. We'd be at 2:30 on CBS, but the guy had to take off his helmet, get penalized, and give him a short field. Let's hear it for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David. Boy, it was some week in college football, so let's do the recap, brought to you by Simmons Bank. It was, of course, a day in the SEC that saw Tennessee stay undefeated on a Hail Mary. Tennessee has not gotten that lucky since the devil came up out of Neyland Stadium's turf and knocked the ball out of my man Sterner's hand in 1998. That had to be the devil at work that day, I tell you. I haven't gotten over it yet. So we saw that. We saw the Aggies remain undefeated. Bad news is they had to go back to College Station, though. The Aggies remained undefeated after giving up a 75-yard touchdown run on the first play from scrimmage. And I thought maybe it's South Carolina's day, but it wasn't to be. And, of course, Alabama remains undefeated with an expected win over a basketball school known as Kentucky. So a big day in the SEC, a big day around the country overall. Hot seat. Crank it up on some coaches. That's when David starts working on his program for next year, you know. We already know we got Les Miles coming next year, right? That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. We won't know what he says, but it'll be fun to hear him say it. So we know he's coming. I hope we don't get Charlie Strong next year, but starting to wonder there. But let's start out with that scrimmage out on a beautiful morning at War Memorial Stadium. Kevin, it was a great job out there. I love War Memorial Stadium. One throwback reason I love it, it's the last place in America you do the wave. You know, last place in America. I love it. It's like stepping back in the 90s again. You You've just got to love that. Arkansas ends a 3-game losing streak in Little Rock with that 52-10 win. They outgained Alcorn 353 to 155 on the ground. By the way, monumental win though. It was the 150th win for Arkansas at War Memorial Stadium. They are now 150, 60, and 4 there overall. Quite a record. Overall in Little Rock, Arkansas is 167, 67, and 4. One of those 67 losses, by the way, was to Ouachita in 1914. I'll mention, David, here in Little Rock. Had to work that in for you old timers, but Alcorn, as you know, was a yard away from cutting the lead to 24-14 at halftime, but fumbled shotgun snap, kept it at 24-7, and then cruised on to about the margin you would have expected in the second half. So the Hogs are 4-1 for the first time since 2011. They have topped 300-yard rushing for the first time since 2014. Meanwhile, Austin Allen, 13 of 18 passing for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. And get this, despite the company at the head table, for the first time since the Razorbacks joined the SEC in 1992, an Arkansas quarterback has passed for multiple TDs in each of the first 5 games in the season. So hats off to Austin Allen for that. Now, what a game between the Hedges and Athens, Georgia. Tennessee goes to 5-0. That is the 4th time in 5 games they have come back from a double-digit deficit. Tennessee goes ahead for the first time in the game when it recovers a Georgia fumble in the end zone with 2:56 to go. The Bulldogs, who are now 3-2 overall and 1-2 in the conference, go ahead on that 47-yard touchdown pass with 10 seconds left. But then you get the excessive celebration penalty. It forces the Dogs to kick off from back at the 20-yard line. Tack on a 20-yard return on that. They're just 43 yards away. That allows the quarterback to get it into the end zone, and the prayers answered. Joshua Dobbs throws it into the end zone for the touchdown, and every church pew in Tennessee was full yesterday morning after that one. A&M, as I mentioned, 5-0 overall, 3-0 in the conference. In both 2014 and 2015, I should note, the Aggies also started 5-0, and they finished 3-5 down the stretch in both of those seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if they can sustain this year. In the 24-13 win at South Carolina, Trevor Knight threw for 206 yards. He ran for another 84. South Carolina not off to a good start in Will Muschamp's first year as his head threatens to explode on the sideline if you've watched him. They're 2-3 overall, 1-3 in the conference. Alabama comes in as expected to Fayetteville, 5-0, 34-6 over Kentucky, which falls to 2-3 overall and 1-2 in the conference. Alabama was sluggish early in that game. It was 3-3 at the end of the first quarter. And how about our man Ed Orgeron? He's 1-0 as interim head coach at LSU as they go to 3-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference, following a 42-7 victory over Missouri. Missouri falls to 2-3, 0-2 in Baton Rouge. By the way, I do understand they did have an Ed Orgeron interpreter in the dressing room so the team could understand his post-game talk. Leonard Fournette did not play due to an ankle injury in that game. Florida goes to 4-1 overall, 2-1 in conference, but it was not impressive. They had to struggle for a 13-6 victory in Nashville over 2-3 Vanderbilt. In fact, the Commodores outgained Florida 265 to 236. We'll see, but I don't think Florida is all of that. Ole Miss is 3-2, 48-28 win over a Memphis team that came in 3-0 to Oxford. You'll remember Memphis beat Ole Miss last season 37-24. And maybe the heat's coming off of Malazan a little bit now as Auburn goes to 3-2 following a 58-7 rout of Louisiana Monroe. And the pressure, like I said, maybe easing after the victory over LSU and then this blowout, Sean White threw for 239 yards for the Tigers. Now, on to Arkansas teams. UCA is tied with Sam Houston State for the Southland Conference lead. They're both 3-0. The Bears went to 4-1 overall, 58-27 rout of 0-5 Abilene Christian out in Abilene. The Bears scored 28 of their points in the second quarter. They had 341 yards rushing in that game. UAPB falls to 1-4, 41-21 loss to an Alabama State team that had come in with an 0-4 record, so not a good day for the Golden Lions. Now, on to the GAC. Harding and Henderson, both 5-0, both nationally ranked, and they're set for a showdown in Arkadelphia on Saturday afternoon. The Bisons from Harding had outscored their first four opponents 193-35, but they had to come from behind in the fourth quarter in Searcy to defeat Ouachita in a game I attended after the Razorback game. Ouachita had knocked off nationally ranked Harding teams the previous 2 years, but Harding wins this time 24-20 in just a great game. Meanwhile, over in Russellville, Henderson had its starting quarterback and its best running back both out due to injuries. The Reddies struggled, but they did beat 2-3 Arkansas Tech 27-20. Junior
He then played behind Mitch Mustang for 4 games, and then he started the last 5 games of the season, and Arkansas finished as the Western Division champion of the SEC. As a junior in 2007, he started all 13 games. On November the 17th, in a home game against Mississippi State, he completed 14 of 17 attempts for 199 yards and a career-high 4 touchdown passes. Those stats earned him SEC Player of the Week honors. 1 week later, he led Arkansas to a 50-48 win over top-ranked LSU. For the season, along with McFadden, Hillis, and Felix Jones, he led Arkansas to the Cotton Bowl. As a senior in 2008, he was a quarterback in Bobby Petrino's first year as the Razorback coach. In his final game, right here at War Memorial Stadium, he threw his final pass as a Razorback. It was 4th down with only 22 seconds left when he hit London Crawford to beat LSU 31-30. Razorback number 11, Casey Dick. Okay, Tyler Wilson played for the Greenwood Bulldogs and won the 2007 Landers Award as the top high school player in Arkansas. As a freshman in 2008, Petrino's first year, Tyler played against Alabama and Texas and then missed the remainder of the season and received a medical hardship. Tyler backed up Ryan Mallett in 2009-2010. Everyone here remembers the road game at Auburn on October the 16th, 2010. Mallett suffered a concussion shortly before the half, and Wilson came on and completed 25 passes for 332 yards and 4 touchdowns. Tyler took over as the Hogs quarterback for the 2011 season. He led the Razorbacks to 11 wins in 13 games and was topped off by being named the offensive MVP in the Cotton Bowl victory over Kansas State. Arkansas was ranked number 5 in the nation after the bowl games. At the end of the regular season, Wilson became the first Razorback quarterback named first team All-SEC. One game Tyler will never forget. October the 1st, 2011, Arkansas versus number 14, Texas A&M in Jerry's World. The Razorbacks trailed by 18 at the half, but Wilson passes for 510 yards and 3 touchdowns and leads Arkansas to a 42-38 victory. As a senior, Tyler missed 1 game due to an injury, but started the other 11 games, threw for a school record 5 touchdowns and a 49-7 victory over Kentucky. He was named a finalist for the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, was selected to play in the Senior Bowl where he passed the South to a 21-16 win. And according to my research, he still holds 29 Razorback passing records. Razorback number 8, Tyler Wilson.
Let's give both of these a Little Rock Touchdown Club welcome. Tyler Wilson and Casey Dick, everybody. All right. Hey, Matt, will you check the stream, please? I think there may be an audio issue. I just got a text from somebody, if you could. All right, Zeph, yeah, I'm sorry if you don't have a great angle. It's really weird. This is the second week in a row, guys, where for some reason the female population is a little bit higher here than normal. He's married. I guess you're still single, so I guess they're here to see you. We're working on it? Okay, just saying. It's a little depressing to hear that every once in a while, to see that. Great to have you guys here.
Appreciate you having us. Appreciate it.
You guys covered, gee whiz, so many years of Razorback quarterback. Let me just ask this real quick. It's Bama week. What are your thoughts when you come to mind? You had a lot of history, both of you did, with Bama. What thoughts come to mind?
Well, it's been a while. First of all, I used to laugh because Bobby Petrino would change our defensive structure during the middle of training camp. We'd go from a 4-down front to a 3-down front, and everybody wondered why. Because Alabama plays a 3-down front, play 3-4. And then they switch it back to a 4-down front, the first part of the season. So I always laugh that Alabama was so important that we changed the course of what we did on a day-to-day basis because we wanted to win that one. And it's been a while since we've won one, and I think, with what we've seen this preseason in the first part of this season, I think we might have a shot.
What do you say, Casey? What memories come out?
Going right along with what Tyler was saying, there was obviously a lot of emphasis that was put on Alabama in a variety of ways. It was not only during the season, but our off-season things that we worked for, goals that we set, and a wide variety of numerous things beyond switching our defense. So obviously it's important, but I was telling Pat and them on the radio that I think we have to beat Alabama in 3 ways, and one of them is we can't beat ourselves. We can't have turnovers in the red zone. We get inside the red zone. We have to come away with points, whether that's field goals or touchdowns. We've got to be efficient when we get inside the red zone. The second thing is don't let them have a big play on special teams. And it seems like I constantly watch Alabama and somebody always has them on the ropes and then they get a punt return for a touchdown or they get a kickoff return for a touchdown. And the third thing is just don't beat yourself. You know, we can't have foolish penalties. We can't do anything outside the realm of what we're used to as far as Arkansas football. So, you know, you expect a heavy run dose, but they've got to be efficient throwing the ball as well to get the ball downfield and make big plays with them.
Before we go ahead.
By the way, he's the last quarterback to beat an Alabama Crimson Tide
How
football.
about that?
It's been too long.
Yes. Was that the double overtime?
That was a double overtime.
Yeah, let me tell you, between you two guys, in my mind, there's so many stats and so much drama, and it was.
There's never drama about it.
Yes, it was overwhelming to me. Let me real quick before we go backwards. Why don't you tell everybody what you're doing now, both of you?
Well, I'm here in Little Rock. Obviously, Casey's in Northwest Arkansas. I'm doing commercial real estate with a great company here in Little Rock area, Commercial Realty LLC. We're really all over the state. We've got an office here in Little Rock, one in Northwest Arkansas, but do a number of development-based projects as well as standard brokerage. But I've enjoyed being a part of that. I know once I was transitioning out of the NFL, I said, I think I had a concussion in Cincinnati, so I was a journeyman. I went from Oakland to Tennessee to Cincinnati and the whirlwind that is the NFL. And I had an opportunity, and thanks to some guys here at JPMS Cox that we had a relationship with, and put me with a great group here that I think we're doing some great things, and I'm enjoying the heck out of being in Little Rock.
And you're doing some radio too in the morning.
Do some radio in the morning.
Up in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, I've got my hands.
It's my competition. Up in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, that's right. I enjoy doing that. I'm with two guys in the Northwest Arkansas area that have been doing it for a while, and we're centered around talking Razorback, athletics, and so it fits right in with schedule. And so I get up early in the morning. I'm up at about 5 and done at 9, and then we start real estate after that.
Gotcha. Casey?
I went back to Texas for 5 years, and then I recently relocated back to Northwest Arkansas. I'm currently coaching and teaching at Bentonville West High School, which is the new high school that just opened up in Bentonville. It is nowhere near the same size as Bentonville, so it's a face of its own unique challenges and circumstances, as this is the second brand new high school that I've opened up and only 7 years of coaching. So it's been an eye-opening experience again for the second time, but it makes you appreciate what you do because you literally have to teach 15 to 16-year-old kids because we don't have a senior class at all from the ground up. There's certain things that we're covering that we don't have to cover if you're at a normal school, but it makes you appreciate what you do on a daily basis. And that population of the high school is about 12 to 1,300 as a first year without a senior class, and they're thinking that with the growth in Northwest Arkansas, that's going to be about 2,500 kids, with Bentonville staying about right around 4,000.
I did have to say, we're in a fraternity. Anybody, we're all Razorbacks together. I'm a little bit older. Admit that.
Nah.
The other big difference. Oh, watch it. Rex is a lot older. The difference, though, I think is something, and I always thought this was amazing, and I want you to share with our group here today. When you're the quarterback of the Razorbacks, the dynamic is, it's our franchise. It is our pro team. You can say what you want to about Walmart, but I think the Razorback franchise is bigger than Walmart because people are passionate about it. What was it like being the figurehead, the most important, most visible person for the Razorback franchise when you guys both played quarterback?
You start.
I'll never forget one of the first days I came in. We had a team meeting, and Coach Nutt said, "For you freshmen, when you go to McDonald's or you go to Burger King, wherever it is, people are going to know you." And we all kind of looked at each other like, "There's no way they're not going to know who we are." But lo and behold, there's about five of us that go to McDonald's or whatever it is right there by the stadium, and people come up to us and start shaking our hand and know who we are, and we're like, "Holy smokes!" Either this is really good or we're in a lot of trouble. So we had to learn fast. That you are a professional sports team, you are held to a higher standard, and when you mess up or whether you do good, people are gonna know. So that possesses its own unique circumstances as well as when you're a college kid, but it also teaches you what you're going to have to learn later on in life, which obviously is going to apply a lot longer than just playing college football.
and I was younger, and I was coming into school while Casey was finishing things up, and so I got a glimpse of what it was like to watch the older guy perform and the pressures. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is the difference between coaching philosophies. We're obviously under Nutt, and then transition into Petrino, which are two vastly different styles and personalities, right?
No.
And then transitioning to the guy we've got today. So we've went all three different directions here, right? So, watching Casey, we used to laugh because he said, man, I've got this gray hair coming in. And we used to tease him about that, the quarterback room, because it was Garrick McGee and between Petrino, I'm sure he did have a few more of those. I'm getting them now. But just seeing, what the demands are on a day-to-day basis. And Casey went through some tough times, especially in the senior year, because we're transitioning. We had so many young players. And I'm watching Casey point Joe Adams around like a deer in the headlights, and Jarius Wright, and of course I am too. But, we have so many young players transitioning, and Casey was a big part of that. And then, just the maturation of the entire program. Yeah. And obviously you learn so much by being a part of it, and glad I could learn under Casey a little bit.
Before we get into the coaching style differences, and I don't think, you'd be the last, obviously, I don't think Twitter had become full force.
Never.
Huh?
Facebook just blew up when I was there.
Yeah, and so, but even then, you heard criticism. What was it like when you heard some of that through the tough times, and then what would it be like today? You've seen it, how bad it got for Brandon Allen, and what social media does for players today.
Social media can be your best friend and your enemy all in the same. There's lots of different opportunities with social media, whether you're doing good or bad. But you're going to hear more about it, obviously, when you're on the bad end of that, and it can be a wide variety of things. But one thing that I had to do personally was I didn't even get on it. I never read the paper. I never got on. The only thing when I was there was Facebook, and y'all probably don't even remember MySpace.
MySpace.
So that's
you
when
had AOL Instant
Messenger. So technology has evolved, and that's what I try to tell my kids, and when I teach them every day, is the iPhone's only 10 years old, and think how far it's come. But it's your worst enemy. I mean, you can't pay attention to it, because in the long run, all those guys riding and all those guys doing all that, you're the one that goes out on the field and plays. So you have control over that certain aspect of what you do on a daily basis.
Do you pay attention to that much?
You can't help but not see it. I mean, you can say I'm in my bubble, and you try to work so much and stay in the facility that you really don't. I don't know if I ever, and I don't know if it was the market or what, but I never got sports talk radio on the car when I'm good. I really didn't. I mean, I was in a bubble, and I'm so appreciative that I wasn't able to be a part of it. But you could hear some of it. You can hear some of the chatter, and kind of back to your previous question about the expectations and the light and the bright. The difference, I had it firsthand between my junior year and my senior year was so vastly different. As easy and as great and effortless almost as the wins came your junior year was as tough as they came your senior year. And so you did hear some of that, and it was tough, but a lot of fun, and I think that it's a double-edged sword, as Casey was saying.
Well, Casey, you were recruited by Houston Nutt, and Wes Sutton, who helps us, he's one of our board members, he remembers talking to Houston Nutt, and there was a 4-star playing in the Army game, the All-American Army game, and Wes had asked Houston about him. And Houston made the comment, Wes recalled, he said, I don't know about that kid. But he said, I am excited about this Casey Dick kid out of Texas. He may not be as highly recruited, but I think his upside's really high. What do you remember about the recruiting process with Houston Nutt?
I still talk to Coach Nutt pretty much probably on a every other week basis. So we still stay in touch. But he was a guy that came down and just visited our high school after I'd went up and visited university. And he originally came down to watch Marcus play, he was the 4-star recruit that they were referring to. He was a great athlete, a big kid, had a lot of potential. And they ended up coming down to one of our scrimmages, and I just ended up having a good scrimmage, and him and a couple of other assistants were there, and they ended up offering me a scholarship as they had left the game. And as soon as I came back up here, and as some of you know, I'm more of an outdoor person than anything. I don't like to sit a whole lot inside. So I fell immediately in love with Fayetteville and just the outdoor areas that everything had to offer, whether it's hunting, fishing, and hiking or canoeing or whatever that may be. So I pretty much knew that this was the place for me.
Well, at the same time, I could probably make the case that your time at Arkansas may have been the most drama-filled years with what went on with the changing of the quarterbacks, the Mitch Mustaine situation, the Houston situation. Talk about what it was like dealing with that. Did you block it out? Did you know it was there? Obviously, you were at quarterback. There was so much controversy about the Mustang situation.
You knew it was there, but like I was trying to refer, and like Tyler was hitting on there, you heard it, but you just went about your business as it wasn't there. You try to do the best and not let it affect you, how you prepare, what you do at practice. But obviously, there was a lot of challenges and unique circumstances that came about, not only with just Mitch, but also, they brought Coach Malzahn in, and Coach Malzahn's a great coach, does a lot of great things. And then they also bring Damian and Mitch, and a lot of great football players came in. Like I tell everybody, I think it was wrong timing, maybe more than anything. I think if it was a different situation, that it all would have worked out. Not taking away from Coach Malzahn, because obviously look at what he's done at the same level. It's been quite astonishing to see what he does at the same level as well.
You were also in the recruiting class of Darren McFadden, Felix Jones. Obviously, I like a lot of people. How many remember obviously the great block you threw in the triple overtime win? I mean, you were playing the Wildcat. I mean, how exciting was that to play with guys that you knew were elite Heisman Trophy candidates?
That's one question that I always get asked is, what would you do differently about your playing time there? And I always tell people nothing. They're like, well, what do you mean? You didn't throw the ball as much as another school. But yeah, I got to play with three of the greatest running backs to possibly ever play college football. So it was a unique circumstance. I tell people I was the best quarterback to hand the ball off. I mean, that's all I had to do. And then I got to turn around and watch Felix and Darren and Peyton just constantly run over and punish people. But just when you turn around and hand the ball off to one of those guys, you never knew what was going to happen. I can remember putting on video after the first couple of practices and watching Felix just take off and run, and I thought the video was in fast forward, because when he hit the line, it was a different level. And every one of those running backs brought something special. I mean, Peyton's probably the most versatile running back, or whatever you want to classify him as, to ever come through the university. I think he could succeed at tight end or linebacker, strong safety. But and everybody in here knows he had the best hands. But Peyton and Felix and Darren. Darren's more of a downhill runner, and Felix has a lot more lateral ability when you go to kind of classify him in their unique ability. But I remember the first time I walked into a class in college, and Felix kind of looks a little bit older than his age because he's bald and he looks a little bit different. And I sit in the back of the class and I'm like, hey, what's your name? And he says, I didn't even know who he was. He said, Felix Jones. And I said, you know what? You look like you're 30. He started laughing, and he was like, I'm a freshman.
A freshman.
Oh, dang.
Well, fast forward to your junior year. Now, I was going to ask you, Tyler. Now, again, it's his junior year. You know what's happening. A lot of controversy.
Try to get him to go.
You go down to LSU. You get the triple overtime. At that point, are you getting recruited by Houston? Because I'd heard that you really weren't. You were the Gatorade Player of the Year at Greenwood. You'd won a state championship, but I heard Houston was not a great. You also were a great baseball player. So while that craziness was going on, were they recruiting you heavy?
I don't know all of the details of why. The answer is no. But I did play baseball, and I think a lot of people felt like I was going to get drafted in a somewhat early position, and most people classified me as a baseball guy, and I love baseball, and I still have passion for it. But if you're not drafted at a certain level, to me, a college education was more valuable, and so ultimately, I was not being recruited. I had Alabama, LSU offers, Missouri, Nebraska. I mean, I had really good offers and was being pursued, but I think there was also another quarterback in that class that was designated as more of a quarterback, a football guy, and so. Jim Youngblood, Camden, and they had several players down there that were top.
Were you frustrated, Tyler, by that situation?
Well, of course, you're an Arkansas guy. You certainly, you'd like to be offered and shown, the ability to have a scholarship at the university, and that wasn't the case. But things work out, And
he was a baseball guy.
We're sitting up here now. So
well, okay. So let's say, all right. So then, did you see that coming after the LSU game? All of a sudden, that's gone to Ole Miss. Are you thinking, what in the world just happened?
That was part of the chatter that was going on. There was, depending on where you looked and who you talked to and what people were saying, that you have all those different scenarios, just like you talk about Les Miles and everybody and Charlie Strong. So people had their opinions and their, I guess, insights when you're talking about media. But that whole thing was just a weird situation, really. It was a whirlwind.
So once that happens, Petrino gets the job, completely different personality than Houston. All of a sudden, Petrino comes in and he makes you a target. He immediately says he's going to go after you, correct?
There is one bit of information I think I left out there. There's a guy by the name of Gus Malzahn that was recruiting me at Arkansas. He takes the job at Tulsa, and so he's at Tulsa. And so I commit to Tulsa above all those other schools that I mentioned. I remember being on the phone with, it was Gary Pinkel. So, and I think he's right, okay. So I'm on the phone with Gary, and he says, "You committed to who?" And he said, "You realize I've got to go to Columbia, Missouri to their version of the Razorback Club meeting and tell them that we lost a quarterback this week to the University of Tulsa." And I said, "Yes, sir." You know, and so I commit to Tulsa. Tim Horton is still on staff and is he's keeping what was, in my opinion, one of the top recruiting classes we've had in several years together, puts those guys together, holds them together, and then there's the hiring of Bobby Petrino.
So now when you heard about the Petrino hire, and again, used to not, had you heard much about Coach Petrino's style? Did you sort of know what might be coming in?
I remember him from when he was at Louisville, and I could always remember watching him on ESPN or whatever they came on, and their quarterback was always, they always were putting up good numbers, and they were throwing the ball, and then they had a pro-style offense. So I was excited about the offense, but then obviously there comes the other side of Coach Petrino.
Right. So and you got to think, being all candid, I'll be honest with you, Tyler was really, when I asked Tyler to speak, Tyler said, "Hey, listen, are you concerned that we both have a different perspective?" Yeah. You know, but we both might have a different perspective on Coach Petrino.
I watched Casey go through some tough days.
Right, because you were a freshman then.
Yeah, I did.
Petrino signed you, and so you saw Casey from being, this is his senior year, the difference between the way you used to not coach the quarterbacks and Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, well, I remember there being days where, I'm in shell shock because I came from a really small town, and there was, if there was a foul word used on the football field, their parents were coming out of the stands, and
we learned a new vocabulary really quickly. And what each one of them meant in detail.
"Dad, did you hear what I heard today at practice?" And then, moms and dads are at practice, and they're hearing it, and they're, covering the sisters' ears and all that stuff, But it was a transition, and I think I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I think, if you look at some of the top coaches in college football and the way they go about, there's the Nick Sabans of the world and the Bobby Petrinos of the world, and they're still at the top, and there's other ways to do it. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I'm not saying that, one's right and one's wrong, but, I enjoyed that experience because I think it grew me as a person, grew me as a man, and opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Well, again, you get 4 years,
right,
and you got one. So how difficult was that 1 year? Of course, we talked about finishing the London Crawford pass. You beat LSU, but you threw up for pretty good yardage that year. So good and bad about that season?
That whole transition from when, and I think Tyler can attest to this because it felt like I was coming from high school when Bobby Petrino came in, just the whole offense as a whole, what he demanded, not only his demands, but what the playbook demanded of you to know what you were supposed to do if you had a certain look or when linemen were blitzing or adjusting. And I get on a chalkboard now or a dry erase board now and drawing up a high school offense, and I'm like, this is simple because you just got to do this. But it was like speaking a foreign language is the best way that I can put it. And then when you have, and I told everybody as soon as I saw Jarius, Joe, Chris, and Greg Childs, all those guys come in, and I saw them after the first 3 or 4 weeks. I said, when those cats are juniors, they're going to be something special. And that's when they won the Cotton Bowl. But that whole first year was like directing traffic. We had to constantly tell people how to line up, what to get there, if we changed the play, what they were supposed to run. So it was a learning curve for everybody, not just me, but everybody in that whole program, as well as obviously the whole community.
How cool! And I didn't realize this. And I don't know if Jim, if you mentioned this or not on the touchdown. I read today, Nathan was actually in your last game of your career at Warmore. Your brother's starting ahead of you. You've been through all this craziness, and your last game, you're sitting there, and your brother's out playing.
It was an awesome dinner the night before.
Awesome dinner. And so
the meetings were great too, by the way. Yeah.
The night before the game.
Oh, we always we had meetings on one of these tables basically, and we would all sit around the table, and it would be me and Tyler, and then of course you had Ryan Mallett, and then you would have my brother. So it was like a a big old family in there that was just constantly giving each other a hard time no matter what the situation was.
So, did Petrino pull Nathan? Or did he get hurt? I can't recall.
He had got hurt.
He got hurt. So you go in what part of the game of that?
Right after the start of the third quarter.
Okay, and so how cool was it to end knowing, hey, I got a chance to finish my career out? Maybe not the way you wanted it to be, but I got a chance to finish out LSU.
You know, obviously, anytime you get a win against LSU, it's big. It doesn't matter what.
Well, you'd already beaten them the year before, triple overtime.
And if you go back, if I didn't play so bad my sophomore year, we'd have beat them then. But you just go back, and like I was saying, anytime you beat LSU, no matter if it's in Baton Rouge or if it's in War Memorial or if it's in Fayetteville, it really doesn't matter where. That's a big win for Arkansas. And it was an awesome experience to get in. And obviously we were down. I can't remember how many we were down, and just being able to bring us back and get a win in the long run was a great way to just end the year and get us. I think we ended up with 5 wins there.
Yeah, and of course, Tyler, you come in there and you get a chance to play. You got the Mallet era. You're in the Mallet era, so you know you're going to have to probably be behind him. You come in Auburn against Cam Newton and have maybe the most unbelievable half of quarterbacking I've ever seen against Cam Newton. Talk about those early years before you got to be a starter behind Mallet.
You know, we were just out in the hallway a minute ago, and someone was asking. There was a transfer quarterback at Alabama just recently, and I know that's been a topic of conversation. And he said, you know, how do you know, whether you need to stay or whether you need to go? And honestly, when you get to college ball, you go from being the best at junior high school, and then you get to college and you got a lot of guys. You're not the guy, you are a guy. And, I think there's a lot of demons that you battle in the locker room each and every day that say, maybe should I be here or should I go? Or, am I getting the right opportunities? And then you got your cousin and your brother and your aunt and your uncle that are in your ear saying, you're the best ever, you need to be out there on the field. And I'm a freshman, So going through that process, I think, is so important. And I think it builds character, your maturation. And I'm so glad that I got a chance I wasn't thrown to the wolves, got a chance to sit behind Casey and got a chance to learn from Ryan. And then, we hit years 4 and 5 where you're at the program and playing with guys that have been playing. I fell into a really good situation there and was so thankful for that. But I think some guys, get caught up into battling the demons every day and listen to those guys, and they end up transferring and not getting their opportunity. But I'm thankful for those early years, as you bring it up.
Of course, you play behind Mallet, you go to Sugar Bowl, then you come back, you take the team to 11 wins, which I think was the first time in school history, or the second time since the national. I can't recall.
National, yeah.
What's that? Third time. So you do that at Kansas State. That's why we got this story back over here. But then all of a sudden, you have what happened with Coach Petrino.
Yeah, I'm glad he just rattled off 2011 year back here when he introduced me.
Because again, talk about what drama this guy went through. You went through drama again as your coach with the situation with Coach Petrino and the motorcycle and all that, and all of a sudden, what was that like to deal with?
Fall in the Cotton Bowl, I felt pretty good about the way the year went. Felt very good about the season to come. But honestly, I had several people that were knocking on my door saying, you know what, have you entertained the thought about going pro? And honestly, I'm a Razorback guy through and through in this state. I mean, I didn't even entertain that thought. My thought was, well, I'm coming back for my senior year. And then they say, well, there's a potential, there's a strong need for quarterbacks this year. 5 quarterbacks go in the first round that year, and that was what was really expected. And so the thought was, maybe I should go. And so I entertained that thought, sat in a meeting with some people that are in this room right here, and as well as some others and Bobby Petrino, and sit here and say, well, what's the future like? And the thought was, well, we can do something really special, and I bought into that, and I still feel to this day, that year would have been much different had some circumstances turned, but obviously I decided to come back to school.
But if that's the case, when that happened, did you think, oh man, maybe I made the wrong decision once that had happened, or you go, no, I got to stick with it, and obviously that's the way it is.
Well, you could sit here and say poor me and have all that mentality all you want, but at the end of the day, it happened. I can't do anything about it. Circumstances have changed. We got to put our best foot forward to go try to have success. And you look back and say the woulda, coulda, shouldas. what other opportunity? I mean, you've got, it's May,
That's right.
April he falls off the bike. You got May, and you're in spring. You guys start laughing.
You're done.
Subtly said.
But so you got May, June, and July, and then your football season. So, the last thing I wanted to do was learn another offense in 3 months. I've had 4 years of learning all the complexities of what Casey was talking about, and they're stemming to a diamond package with 3 seconds left. What do I got to do? And so I understood those things, and I was as
you want a continuation.
Absolutely.
So did you think the continuation, Tim Horton, that had been talked about? Did you think John L. Smith would be the guy they would bring in?
I thought during the he's putting me on the spot
listen,
here. Huh?
Come on.
I told you I love Tim. I love all those guys I played for. One of the tough parts about that, though, is if you have several coaches within your organization that are all bidding to be the guy, that's division within their locker room, right? And so we knew that if that was going to continue, it was only going to divide us. And then you throw everybody out the door, and you bring new people. So I think what the best thing that probably could have happened was you bring a guy from outside, and that was John L. Smith.
Yeah, it had to be a little disappointing to reach the point where the program had gotten, and then you guys were top 10 going into the season.
Right.
Obviously, it fell apart as that season went on. Not the way you wanted to finish, I'm sure, but you did the best you could with it.
I think so. Sure, 4 wins probably could have been. You look at several of the instances here. One one was right here in Little Rock. You have Ole Miss that year, which probably could have been a win, and you look at Louisiana Monroe, which was one of the toughest losses I've been a part of. Had a concussion early in that game, and to find out in the hospital afterwards, we end up losing. So there's 3 or 4 games right there that you look at that season and said, what could have been.
Got Colin Jackson over here who's committed to play to Arkansas. Casey, you're an out-of-state guy. Tyler, obviously, you're a local guy. You've been through an amazing career of ups and downs and crazy. What would you tell him the thing that's the greatest part about being a Razorback for that young man?
Like we talked about earlier, I think there's a lot of unique opportunities within being a Razorback. One is you're going to get all the attention, but you're also going to get all the negative attention that comes with it. And obviously, you've been raised by great parents that have done a great job. First and foremost, go to class. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Mama wants that piece of paper, right? Mama wants a piece of paper with your name on it. Go to class and make good decisions. And if you do that, everything else will take care of itself. But it's going to start with going to class on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I tell kids that now that are going to college, they're like, well, what advice are you going to give me? The first thing is go to class. If you go to class, you're putting yourself in a chance. You're giving yourself a chance to succeed. If you stay in bed, you're not. And you have a target on your back when you go up there, bar none. You have one on your back. The teachers are going to know. Everybody's going to know who you are. So don't ever think somebody's not going to know who you are. Remember, somebody's always watching.
But you, Tyler?
It's not easy. It isn't easy. But in the same sense, you've got all the academic help. You got all of the support. And I think one of the things, if you leave the state of Arkansas, sometimes you don't have the people that are influences in your life keeping you in check. And I always felt I was an hour away from home, and I knew somebody had a tab on me, and I always felt like I was in a fishbowl. And I think there's positives to being in a fishbowl because you always know somebody's keeping you accountable. And there's several instances that we could bring up of guys that are from the state of Arkansas that go somewhere else and they lose that tab. And I think you get away from maybe who you are. And honestly, when he said, hey, the guy's committed to the Razorbacks, and you heard this room erupt, that's what being the Razorbacks all about.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually had this said in a classroom. Sat down, I can't remember what year it was, but the professor said, just want to tell you right now, if any of you in here are Razorback athletes, you're already on my bad side. No joke. So everybody turns around and looks at me. I'm like, turn around. Last thing real quick, too. You guys both have great parents. I know you lost your dad a few years ago. Talk about what your dad meant to you and his influence on your life.
He meant everything. It was a very quick circumstance that led to that. But I look back now and probably the most, it's not disappointing, but the thing that I wish he was here just the most is I now have a 3-year-old daughter, and I got a son on the way that's going to be here in December. So it's still it still gets to me now that he's just not here to be a part of their life, because he wanted a daughter more than anything, and he was going to get a granddaughter. But it's tough. But I try to just look back and see the things, obviously, that he did, the way that he impacted my life, the way that he gave me tough love, which is it's a hard thing to do, and I didn't understand it until I had a daughter. But it's a very hard thing to do that you have to do sometimes. But he just molded me into the person that I became today, and obviously it's going to help, and hope it will trickle down to obviously my children also.
That's your parents?
You know, I think mom and dad have been the root. You know, I think you try to do the most as a parent to put them on the right track and give them the best chance for success, and then you let them go. And that's what's hard about college is letting them go for the first time, and I hope all that training and all those years pay off. And, you know, I try to do the right thing. Obviously, there's several instances you look back and go, what was I doing? And every kid does that. But, you know, it's part of growing up. And I'm so thankful. And now, you know, looking back at some of the kids that are in the process and that have the right help, and these coaches now that are serving as that parental support that they, you know, as they're now in college is instrumental. And I think a lot of these coaches don't get enough credit for that.
Close with this. What do you think about Brett Bielema? What do you think he's doing with the program?
Yeah, he's a great coach. Obviously, when we talk about the three guys that we've been a part of, I tell everybody, I think he's a mixture of what you have to be as a coach. And me and Tyler have been around, obviously, some opposite ends of the spectrum. But you got to have a coach that's firm, and you got to have you have to let kids that are 19 and 20 years old know that you care for them. And I think that he does that in a wide number of ways, whether it's getting on Twitter and finding them on social media and pointing them out on social media why they're not going to class, or whoever it was that made that, and I saw that. But those guys love him. They'll run through a brick wall for him just because they know that he cares for them outside of football. You know, he gets up on the podium and talks about the Springdale player that obviously had a tragic death, and he tears up because he loves kids. And I think that's why all of us kind of get into the business, is that we love kids and we want to see them succeed. But he's a guy that everybody up there respects.
You know, and I wanted to follow my last sentence with, you know, coaches don't get enough respect, especially in college athletics, about maturing kids and bringing kids along. And, you know, you cross your fingers every time you say this, but you look in the newspaper every morning and you hold your breath that somebody didn't make the wrong decision at night. And at the University of Arkansas, there has been a change that direction. And I think that is, you know, that's a testament to Brett Bielema and staff and the type of mentorship they're putting kids through at the University of Arkansas.
Are these guys not great? Let's give it up. Tyler Wilson and Casey Dick, everybody. Great job, guys. Good job. Excellent. We'll see you next week.